Good morning, Vietnam. Hi, everybody. Welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I want to thank you guys for joining me for another replay battle. This one is going to be on 0.96.1, our current build, and it was sent in to me by Isengard Mechs, so a big thank you to Isengard Mechs for supporting the channel. Now, without any further ado, let's take a look at some of our army comps here, and then we can jump into what I'm sure is going to be a very exciting replay. Naturally, the first army we're going to start with today is the army of the person who sent in this replay, so Isengard Mechs, playing most fittingly as Isengard. He's brought some Snog Skirmishers, one unit of Snog Skirmishers right there. He's also got Uruk-hai Crossbows, Dunlending Clansmen, second line here of Dunlending Veterans, followed up by some Uruk-hai Infantry, followed up by some Uruk-hai Pikemen, and then some Nazakai, so it just gets progressively better. This is something of an onion formation. He's got another line of Uruk-hai Infantry extending over this way, pikes arranged on his wings, and then you can see more of his Dunlending Veterans here. Another company of Clansmen supporting his crossbows. Pretty damn cool formation. Big gap in the center here, however, could, you know, it could lead to some cavalry running in here and running a lightning strike on his Uruk-hai Infantry, but it could also be intentional. Gaps like this were quite frequently used to bait people into getting themselves into a situation that they would otherwise prefer to not be in. So, interesting. I like to see people play with their formations and try and come up with unique strategies like that. So I would be really amused to see this be used as a bit of a bait here to sucker his enemy in. In any case, also got some Morgue Riders. You know, derpy ass trolls of the White Hand. Yeah, I know, they look weird. It's because their skeleton is all wrong. But in patch 0.97, they're going to be getting a brand new model, which looks similar to the Uruk-hai. So it's damn nice. That's going to do it for Isengard Mechs' army. Let's take a look at his ally now, the Realm of Lothlorien, commanded by none other than the Desert Fox himself, Rommel. He's got some Karis Galathon's Guardians here, and those this unit here is actually going to serve as his General's Bodyguard. In addition, he's brought some artillery. I don't see Elven units or Elven armies really bring artillery all that often, so I don't know. Maybe he's got a plan. Maybe he's a bit new. We'll see if it turns out well for him. He's got some Lothlorien archers here in his front line. Ethel Tirith, a couple companies of them. Also got some Lothlorien swordmasters, Lothlorien spears to the tune of 2 companies. A second company of swordmasters right here as well. I got some Lothlorien mounted company, two I want to say companies, but I feel like I've said that far too many times. Two units there, the Lothlorien mounted company, a couple units of the Lothlorien axes, possibly even as much as 4. So a pretty large money battle. But that's gonna do it for the blue team armies. Let's go ahead and see what their opponents, Team Red, are bringing to the battle today. Oh, also worth mentioning that the Isengarders have a unit of the Guards of Orthanc, a tanky little support unit that's quite useful for the fact that it gives morale to all units nearby. In any case, across the field from Isengard, we have the Camping Panda playing as Umbar. He's brought some Belgier Footmen. It's going to form this little... Actually, there's 2 companies there, and they're going to form a bit of a forward position here. They're going to be defending a couple units of Corsair Archers. The main body of his army, however, consists of more Belgier units. Got some Belgier Archers, Belgier Halberds, Corsair Savages, 1 company of Casimir's Legion. This is an interesting formation. I'm guessing newer player, probably. 2 more companies here, the Belgier Footmen, Numenorian Lancers, beautiful, deadly, swift, everything you want out of a Lancer unit. 2 companies of the Numenorian Shield Guard, Abrazanim Nardu Bawib, 2 units of them, and then finally, Narnar Royal Guard. This is an interesting... Yeah, I'm not sure what this is all about. If only the Isengarders do have a fair amount of cav, they could use that to fairly great effect here, although of course with the Spearmen in loose formation, that can be a big problem for cavalry charging into their ranks. But still, interesting Isengard army. Now for something a little bit more traditional. Here we have a runic army commanded by Katunka, the Easterling. Quite an appropriate player name there. He's got Eastern crossbowmen, 2 companies of them, Kamel's Dragon Knights, Kamel's Chosen. I really like this. The only 2 silver units in Rune's roster are going to be forming the final line. They look very much like the commanders of this force. Loke Flag Rim, Loke Gamp Rim, a lot of armor piercing here. Scion Rim, useful for their anti-cavalry abilities and also for their light inspire. I got some Loke Flag Rim here as well. Yet more Loke Flag Rim, more Scion Rim, more Flag Rim, and more Gamp Rim. Doesn't seem to be terribly... It's not a very cohesive formation. They're just kind of all over the place. So I imagine that they're maybe planning on rushing or something, and they just want to be Want to be a bit more flexible? I don't know. We'll see. In any case, 2 companies here of the Eastron Clansmen with armor upgrades, presumably an attack upgrade as well. Narrim, 2 companies of them. And then out in front of them, we got some Eastron Hunters. So a fair amount of quality mixed in here with some quantity. And now, army comps out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the battle. Oh, what do you know? There's 2 companies here of the Camels chosen. I don't know how I managed to miss that. Yeah, that's a lot of scary infantry potential, especially against that Lothlorien army here, which seems pretty small. Mostly they've got a lot of their elite infantry, but it seems like Rune's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with them. But in any case, let's jump into the battle. I hope you guys enjoy it. And as the battle begins, Lothlorien is going to be the one to make the first move. They're going to move forward with all 4 of their archer companies in tow. And it doesn't seem like a whole hell of a lot else, which could be a problem. That definitely looks like an overextension here on the part of Lothlorien, especially given that his spear units, which could help ward off enemy cavalry, are so far behind. Pardon me. And it seems like Umbar is more than ready and willing to capitalize on that fact. You can see the Numenorean Lancers being switched over to Rune's side of things to lend a little bit of support to their ally. That's the kind of thing I like to see. Elsewhere on the battlefield, it seems like Umbar is largely moving his forces behind this this forward position. He's going to use this as a buffer, maybe to break up any advance from Isengard, and possibly going to give himself an opportunity to surround them and envelop them on the front line. But for now, got some action here. The Numenorean Lancers charging their way into battle against the Lothlorien archers, and that's going to hurt. Oh, that's going to hurt. They try to pull out at the last minute. Rommel realizes his misstep, but it's going to be far too late. Another volley of arrows is going to pour in there, and that Lothlorien archer company is, I think we're on smaller settings, so they probably started about 50. Yeah, so they're at under half strength at this point. Lothlorien is not going to let that pass, however. You can see both companies of the Lothlorien Mounted Company charging after those Numenorean Lancers. Camping Panda thinks he's getting off easy, but it certainly doesn't look like it. That being said, this is a dangerous place for these mounted company to be. There are some crossbows nearby, and Rune is well aware of that fact and about to start dumping volleys into these mounted company while the Numenorean Lancers hold them in place. This is actually a fairly even fight, too. I mean, if there wasn't 2 companies of Lancers, the Numenorean Lancers and the mounted company are of similar quality. So yeah, it's a pretty good fight between 2 heavily armored and well-trained companies of horsemen. Lothlorien not done yet, it would seem. And they're going to go right for the front line here. Eastron Hunters, oh, they thought they were safe. Going to get a big charge in the front from Lothlorien Mounts Company. The Clansmen going to get caught up in this rush as well. And Lothlorien still hunting, still out for blood. They're going to charge directly at that next company of Eastron Hunters. And it seems like another company of Eastron Clansmen are going to get caught up in this brouhaha as well. That's going to hurt. Yeah, Lothlorien took a tough situation and turned it into a small victory for them. Numenorean Lancers not done either, finishing off that company of the Lothlorien Heavy Archers. Goodbye, good night, sweet prince. Meanwhile, over here, it looks like Umbar actually had a unit of Warlords of Umbar in addition to, which I don't know how I call myself a commentator, how I sleep at night when I've missed that. Warlords of Umbar are a game-changing unit. Over here, Camel's Dragon Knights, in support of his front line, are going to chase off the Lothlorien Mounted Company under Rommel. Rommel doesn't want none of that, and I don't blame him. Meanwhile, over here, more Cav action. Isengard coming in with their War Riders, looking to jump and take a bite out of that soft underbelly of the Umbar army. Umbar's not going to let this happen, however. Beliger Footmen charging into the flank of the Warg Riders, going to cause them to bug out. Numenorean Lancers also on their way back. That is going to cause Isengard mechs to rethink his approach. And this is interesting. We'll come back to this in just a moment. Let's see if there's anything else going on the battlefield so far. It does not look like the Lothlorien Mounts Company have been pushed back. So let's talk a little bit about a misstep here and how this misstep could have been turned into something useful. So you can see the Warlords of Umbar kind of charging off on their own, very proud, very impetuous, as you would expect the nobility of Umbar to be. They're going right for the Champions of the White Hand, one of the best melee units, or melee cavalry in the game, and they're going to get enveloped by War Grinders as well. This did not have to be the disaster that it is right now that you're seeing unfold before you. If he had used the Mounted Company here as a feint to give the Isengard player the impression that he was going to commit against the champions of the White Hand and then pull back. He could have pulled those Warg Riders within range of his Corsair Archers and sprayed them down for maximum damage and still managed to keep his Warlords of Umbar pretty well intact, and that would have shifted the balance of power in terms of cavalry farther in favor of Umbar and his ally than it already was. But Warlords of Umbar gonna run off with what small remnant is left of their unit and lick their wounds. But yeah, this was definitely a big mistake, but it was a mistake that had some potential. And I don't think Campy Panda quite meant to do that, but in any case, there goes the Warlords of Umbar. Over on the main line, the skirmish fight continues between Lothlorien and the Archers of Rune, and the Archers of Rune are doing very well. You can see the Ethel Tirith here, not being able to hold a candle to the superior numbers of the Eastron Hunters. Yeah, they have superior range. They did not have to get this close, and they're going to definitely pay for it with that light armor, not really offering them a ton of protection against those arrow volleys. Still one company of Lothlorien archers, but looking a little bit reduced. And I think Lothlorien at this point has had enough. You can see a mix of Lothlorien blades and axes moving forward to meet their enemy in close quarters and settle this ye olde style. In close quarters, man to elf. Yeah, this is going to be tough for Rune. There's a lot of melee defense on these Lothlorien units, and a fair amount of armor as well, combining part of the strength of the Woodland Realm and Imladris. Yeah, this is not going to be an easy fight for Rune at all. In 0.96, some of the Runic infantry have a little bit lower attack value than they're going to have in 0.97. Not going to be an easy fight. Rune, however, feeling up to the challenge. Katunka the Easterling, moving forward with some of his heavier companies, going to use the Eastron Clansmen here to break up the Lothlorien advance, and Lothlorien is doing a bit of a staggered advance here, which, whether they intended or not, is not a bad idea. You can see Rune is committing very, very heavily. In fact, I would say that they are over-committing into their center here to beat back this first wave. More reinforcements moving in, another 2 companies of spears, and then once Rune commits everything here, there's going to be another wave of infantry yet to come. It's a little bit of a mistake here on the part of Rune by committing this much to repulse just a few companies of the Elven infantry. Yeah, definitely not worth it. And at the same time, Isengard is moving forward in tandem with his ally, and Umbar is looking a little bit ragged here on their front line. Belliger footmen looking like they've suffered a few charges from the Warg Riders. The Warg Riders, of course, didn't get off scot-free. And the Belgier footmen are still able to break up the Isengard advance, but Isengard needs to get his rear in gear here. There's a lot of his archer companies, I believe, that aren't actually being used right now. Belgier archers, Nar Royal Guard, Casimir's Rangers would be incredibly useful, although I would say that they have definitely been revealed a little bit early here. I probably would have waited until Isengard had committed more forces. Ambers and Mar de Balway, but at least they're in a good position to rain down death upon their enemies as they approach. But this is going to be a tough fight for Umbar. They don't have a ton of infantry units, which is usually what you see with Umbar. Mostly a lot of skirmishers. Got some Casimir's Legion here moving forward, along with some Belgier footmen and some Numenorian Shield Guard. This is everything that they got in terms of infantry, and I don't think it's going to be sufficient to beat down Isengard with their trolls, with their Nazakai, with their pikes. But I suppose that remains to be seen. What we got here, Urukai infantry, looking like they want to pick a fight with some of the archer companies. Of course, their archers probably should have been drawn back. Over here, we have an engagement between the Casimir's Legion and the Urukai infantry. I would give that to the Casimir's Legion any day of the week. And Umbar is just scrambling to deal with the a very savage charge from Isengard. It's gonna be tough for them to handle. Over here, Lothlorien has engaged the bulk of the runic forces, and they're just continuing to pile in here, which I don't think is a good idea. There's still, look at that, got some hidden units back here as well. Sindar Blade Masters, and there's still some Sword Masters, and of course, la creme de la creme, got the Karis Galathon's Guardians. And there's not really any counters on the runic line, at least not in terms of their infantry. They're gonna have to use their Eastern Crossbowmen to counter that menace. It seems like Lothlorien, despite the numbers disparity, seems to be winning on the front line, but they are slowly but surely beginning to thin out under the crushing weight of numbers that Rune is able to bring to bear against them. But again, a lot of these units aren't actually fighting. There is potential here for an envelopment which would have absolutely devastated Lothlorien's first line, especially given the slow rate of advance of the final wave of infantry. I think that they could have potentially surrounded at least, or at the very least on the wings, begin to slowly crush the Lothlorien infantry inwards while keeping some reserve companies to stop the surrounding units from getting surrounded in turn by the third wave of infantry. But Runa's just gone all in on the center, and they're just going to try and grind the elves down by sheer attrition, which is not generally a good idea. What do we got here? Warg Riders charging into the rear of the Lokamp Brim. Where are the Kammel's Dragon Knights in all of this? That's what I want to know. Apparently they're over here fighting with the Lothlorien Mountain Company. They will win this fight, but they've been quite heavily reduced, and I wonder exactly how that happened. Maybe they got caught out by the Mountain Company, the 2 units of them, and charged down. That would certainly even out this fight in the way that I'm seeing it be even right now. More Lothlorien reinforcements charging in against Rune. Be an interesting fight, but let's see how Isengard is doing. Casimir's Rangers. Let's see, now I want to know where they are because they're going to be an important part of this. Casimir's Rangers, way too close to the front line. This is a great way to kill your own units. You definitely want to have Rangers in a flanking position, putting down some enfilading fire. And over here, it's wide open. Like, this would have been an easy thing for them to do. In certain areas, it seems like Umbar are holding their own. Says victory is certain for both sides. Hard to really tell which way that engagement is going. Although, given how surrounded the pikemen the shield guards seem to be, I would probably give that to the pikemen. Although the savages will certainly even out that fight somewhat. Okay, infantry and pikes here facing off against halberds and more Numenorian spearmen. The Casimir's Legion, now with the influx of more Uruk-hai infantry, are not really able to hold the line here. Of course, their archers, Belegear footmen, nearly on the verge of routing, suffering a hammer and anvil strike from those Warg Riders. I think we're actually starting to see some routing there. Belegear footmen and this other company, Belegear footmen, already ready to run. 23 in this unit. Yep, it's pretty unfortunate. And now the Rangers being targeted down. And it doesn't seem like Camping Panda has kept them in defensive formation, so they will not be able to continue to fire. So this unit is effectively silenced. Coming out over here, Blackguards. Blackguards are in a great position. This is exactly where you'd want a Javelin unit to be. They can hit the trolls, they can hit everything. But it seems like Camping Panda is going to decide against beginning to fire there, which I think is a bit of a mistake. He's wasting time that could otherwise be used murdering Uruk-hai, which, of course, is time very poorly wasted, especially when he's losing as heavily as he is on his front line. He needs to act, and act quickly. No time to be finicky about your positioning, and besides, he already had perfect position anyway. Let's see what we got over here. Camel's Dragon Knights finally joining this mainline fight. And now they're heading back behind enemy lines for some reason, probably in response to this menace here from the Champions of the White Hands and the Warg Grinders. But honestly, I would leave that to the crossbowmen, and I would leave that to my ally Umbar. Umbar is in a position where they can hold up this blob of wargs. He's got the Rune player has his crossbows nearby, and Umbar is already putting some enfilading fire into these 2 units of wargs. So I don't think it's necessary to bring back the Camel's Dragon Knights. And indeed, they don't seem to be even interested. I'm very confused about what's happening here. Yeah, Rune has a chance to win this. They've still got the numbers. They're still holding their ground relatively well, but the Elven quality will win out given time. But the Runic player needs to not give them that time. He needs to get the Camel's Dragon Knights moving. He needs to get them charging into the rear of the Elven infantry. He's just wasting time he doesn't have right now, and I don't understand why. Eastron crossbowmen. Yeah, it doesn't look like the Eastron crossbowmen were actually even used against the Champions of the White Hands. They could have, while the Umbar cavalry held them in place. Very much a lapse in teamwork and communication there, it would seem. Meanwhile, Isengard doing what they do best on the front line, hacking down the Umbarim. It doesn't seem like Umbar really has any more answers. I think this is going to be Umbar on its last legs. Over here, the Casimir's Rangers have been caught out by infantry, caught out by trolls. Camping Panda just doesn't seem to be able to manage a skirmish-heavy army terribly well, and I think that's going to be his undoing in this battle. We haven't really seen a lot of very good micro. There's certainly been some questionable decision-making, and yeah, it's really starting to cost him. Let's see what we got here. Uruk-hai, no, not Uruk-hai. We got some Casimir's Legion, got some Belegear Halberds, advancing on this line of Snaga skirmishers here, getting pinned in place by the Warg Riders, while the Snagas, the relatively inexpensive Snagas, toss their javelins into much more expensive units. Small unit of crossbows there, attacking the Belegear Halberds. Being in spear wall was not what this situation called for. They needed to advance rapidly and silence these units before exactly this could happen. That being said, they are going to make it into combat against the Uruk-hai crossbows, silence that unit, and probably kill them. Over here, Castamir's Legion being tossed at these Uruk-hai pikemen. This is really just playing for time. I probably would use them against these Snaga skirmishers. At least then I would be able to be guaranteed of routing this unit quickly, and maybe I could continue to cause my enemy some problems and draw some of his forces away from this main line, and give my skirmishers the time that they need to finish off this blob. Well, let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, still firing at the Snaga skirmishers. Ooh, that was awful. Still firing at the Snaga skirmishers while the Belgier halberds sitting there in melee. Questionable. Questionable indeed. Meanwhile, the rest of the Isengarders disrupting the skirmish line from Umbar, not giving him a chance to use his only really dangerous asset left. Oh, that's gonna be unfortunate for him. Finally, some rear charges by the Camel's Dragon Knights. They're gonna get countercharged, however, by the Sindar Blade Masters, who are quite heavy on the melee defense side of things, so they will be able to weather that charge a little bit better than they otherwise would have been. Camel's Dragon Knights getting out of there. There's still a chance for Rune. Personally, I would charge into the rear of the Karas Galathon's Guardians, or at least feint and make them turn around so that the units on the other side, like the Camel's Chosen, will be able to get in there and do their bloody work. Yeah, hammer and anviling like this, especially when there's a lot of spear units, it's not quite so simple as point and click. There's a little bit of a cat and mouse mind game that does go on. So deking out your opponent, feinting and making them commit in such a way that it can have consequences on your battle line is a smart thing to do. And now, Camel's Dragon Knights have an opportunity to charge into the rear of these units at the very least. This is where Rune seems to be losing the heaviest. And yeah, this would definitely be my choice, but it seems like instead they're going to go for a small unit of Ethel Tirith, which aren't really a threat. Again, questionable decision making here on the part of Team Red that is losing them time that they don't have. Like, he needed to slaughter these flanking infantry and not care quite so much about what a small unit of archers that isn't really a threat anymore is doing. And it was going to go after a company of 3 Ethel Tirith. Like, who cares? Why? I don't understand this. It's just strange. Probably a result, I would say, of inexperience. Over here, Rune's still trying to do what they do best. However, Isengard has finished off with Umbar for the most part. They're now able to divide their attention between both sides and disrupt the runic skirmish line as well. And that's really the biggest strength that the red team had left that could potentially have turned this game around. And we can see the skirmishers here just being cut down. Deadlining Clansmen aren't amazing, but these front crossbowmen are equally unimpressive. In fact, I would say more so. What do we got over here? Oh, a countercharge here from the Abrazani Minority Bomb Wave, trying to save the other unit, although it's a little bit too late for that, as it has been eaten alive by this combination of Deadlining Veterans and Uruk-hai Infantry. Over here, Belgier Archers shut down by just a few Trolls of the White Hand. And now I'm back here. Narnar Royal Guard. They're needed. They're needed up here, and they're just kind of going for a stroll. Questionable. I guess he's still trying to get this tiny unit of Warg Riders, but honestly, you zone them out with your Umbar Warlords that remain, and then use your archers a little bit more effectively is probably what the situation calls for more. Yeah, Umbar is holding on, but only by a thread. I don't think it's really going to matter for too much longer, as Rune is now being thoroughly defeated. Look at the Dragon Knights. What are they doing back here? He's just getting absolutely hammered on his front line, and he's got the one unit that could change that, just off in La La Land, doing their own thing, chasing down a company of Lothlorien archers, running after some unimportant Eastron hunters. Like, let them chase. Just keep them running away, keep them busy, keep them out of that fight, and then use your cavalry to try and even out the infantry fight, which was his only way of winning this battle. And now we're going to see why. Look at that. Imagine if that was charging into the back of the elves the entire time. Like, this would be... We would be seeing a very different game here, I think, if Rune had done a few things otherwise. Not to be mean to players that are obviously new, but, like, this is the kind of criticism I think that some people will need in order to see their mistakes and work to remedy them. So I'm not trying to be mean, but yeah, there's definitely some things that the Runic player and Team Red generally could have done a lot better here. And here we go, the final nail in the coffin of the Runic line. Camel's Chosen will stand and fight for pretty well ever, but the rest of their line has evaporated around them, and now Isengard and Lothlorien are free to swarm against this small pocket of Camel Legionnaires. Well, that's going to be the end of Rune. Let's take a look at our percentages here, 90 to 70. That's a pretty crushing victory. I mean, in reality, if you lost 70% of your army, it would be a disaster. But still, this is how Total War works. It doesn't matter so much in multiplayer when everything is just replenished anyway. But yeah, a disaster for Team Red. Oh, Umbar is still around though. Somehow, there goes Eastron Crossbowman. Umbar was the first player to, I think, really find themselves in difficulty, and looked like they were going to be ultimately defeated quite quickly. But no, they're the last one standing. Belgier archers should probably be shooting at these Centaur Blade Masters. They could do a lot of damage to them, but what are they shooting at? Oh, some Snaga skirmishers. Maybe Team Red has just given up at this point, I think. Belgier archer is going to charge into combat, but it's not going to matter, especially not against Elven heavy infantry. The presence of their general will stiffen them somewhat. They will fight for quite a while. Back here, Nazakai and Trolls have wiped out all the remains of the Umbar skirmishers, and I think we're coming down to the last... Oh, pardon me, guys. Hope you didn't hear that. The last, about 1,100 or so frames. Yep. Good night, sweet prince. Belgier archers surrounded. Nazakai coming in from the rear. Even with the presence of their general, I don't think they're going to stand and fight for too much longer. And there goes Castamir, down like a sack of bricks. Well, that's going to be it for the Umbar line. I wonder if they have anything left. It certainly doesn't seem that way. Well, maybe there's a few units kiting out here. Nope. So what is remaining? Ah, 3 Camels Dragon Knights who were, well, at least they killed these archers, even if everything else didn't work out for them. I wonder what this player's going to do now. Are they going to try and... Oh, he's going after the Ethel Tirith. He really hates Ethel Tirith. It's like Anakin Skywalker and Sand. He just wants to exterminate them. Anakin Skywalker and younglings, I should say. There's the ballista crew. I didn't actually see the ballista do anything. It probably wasn't using fire ammunition, so that in all this chaos, its bolts would have been practically invisible. And there goes the ballista crew. Urukai crossbows, focusing down what remains of the Camel's Dragon Knights. And it's game over. Yep. Runic player. Oh, I thought he had accepted his fate there, but now he's going after those... The ballistic crew. I guess it's because they look like the Ethel Tirith. That's why he wants to kill them so badly. And there you have it, the end of the game. Yeah, not a lot of kills on the part of the Easterlings and Umbar. I think that even with their fairly unorthodox deployment and army compositions, Rune certainly less so than their ally Umbar, I think this is a fight that they could have won. Umbar probably wasn't going to beat Isengard, but they certainly didn't need to lose that fight quite so badly as they did. And Rune, I think, could have beaten Lothlorien. They could have beaten them quite handily and then turned around and had a fight with Isengard, and then who knows what would have happened. But ultimately, a solid victory for Team Blue. Fair amount of teamwork there. You saw both players helping each other out and just kind of playing either side of the field and being as obnoxious and making things as difficult on the other team as they possibly could. So great job to them. And again, I'm not trying to pick on the red team. I'm sure they did their best, but yeah, criticism, sort of what I do. But in any case, there you go. There are the kills. I hope you guys enjoyed this so far, and I hope you'll join me for whatever comes next. Thank you, everybody.